Hi Cheryl, hi John.
Oh, John,
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic.
Good.
He's gonna find out. Is that yours? Hold on. That's true. I said those pens are familiar. I don't know where this
Don't
one.
throw that pen around.
We got some new ones too. All right. Oh, it's your pen? Did I steal it? It's probably. Leave it there.
It's okay, I leave them all over.
Good marketing.
well, we're going.
We're good. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Broome County Industrial Development Agency of May 18th, 2022. Looking for a motion relative to the transcript of our March 16th, 2022 board meeting. Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? Let's have a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Come to the part of our agenda where we have our public comment section. Anybody wishing to speak on any matter concerning the Broome County IDA, please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 5 minutes. No takers.
No takers.
We'll close our public comment section. Executive Director's Report. Stacy.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. It's, nice to see so many of you in person. A few updates that I have, and then what I will try to be incorporating too is just some brief updates from staff each month, just to give you an update on what they're working on. So a few things. I had the good fortune to participate in two very positive events that related to projects we've been involved with. The first was the UHS groundbreaking for their $160 million Wilson campus renovation and reconstruction. That took place a few weeks ago, and it was a great way to highlight the work that the service we can provide with our taxes and bond financing. So it was a great event. And then about a week later, was able to participate in the Lourdes, the grand opening of the Lourdes Health and Wellness Facility, Lourdes Pavilion, as it's now called. And if you recall, that's a project we first supported with Spark Broome when the Matthews family purchased the former Sears building. If you've not been in, it's a beautiful facility. It was a great culmination of a lot of couple years work on building that. In addition, a few other things. We are going to return to our community breakfast. We have not done that in person in a few years. We invite a number of our clients and community members to hear. It's sort of our annual report to the community every year. We're planning that June 7th at the SUNY Broome Culinary and Event Center downtown Binghamton. So we're looking forward to that. You should all have invitations in your folders, and we're mailing some out this week. A few other things. Brendan, Natalie, and myself will be heading to Cooperstown next week for the New York State Economic Development Council's annual meeting. That will be Wednesday to Friday morning. We do have, I think, one marketing nomination in there for excellence in marketing of our site selection, yes. Digital advertising. Amy's going to get into a little bit on the performance of some of our digital advertising and a few. And related to projects, we were able to close with Cashew Enterprises on the reconstruction of the Greater Binghamton Sports Complex. We're happy to see that project moving forward after some unfortunate setbacks. And one thing to make the board aware of related to Mountain Fresh Dairy, and Joe can fill in some details, but the process for the litigation and foreclosure is coming to, I guess, a culmination with a foreclosure auction on the property that will happen on June 16th. Public notice was issued on May 19th. That will take place
At the courthouse.
At the courthouse. So does exist the potential that we will own that facility following the foreclosure auction. I don't know if there's any other details we should add other than,
Do you want me to speak on the
Sure.
taxes?
oh, yes, please. Yeah,
So
please.
one thing we are going to have to do is pay the outstanding taxes. It's now a requirement of a foreclosing party that you prior to or simultaneously with
With a foreclosure
you,
auction.
you pay the outstanding taxes, and I think they total about 80,000. Now, that's money we would get back from an eventual sale, or it would be added into our bid at the foreclosure sale. We haven't heard anything from the owners of the property. We were in contact with them and with their lawyer for a couple of years during this whole process, but Gary Collison from my office has reached out to them and there's been no response. The response before was, we'll never let this go through
Mhm,
to sale. We have too much invested in it.
mhm.
But do they want to put another couple hundred? Well, now we'll be close to 3 with the taxes. Do we want to put another 3 into it and own this thing? Who knows? I think you recall one of the owners died, and so part of the asset is owned by his estate, and so that certainly may change their appetite for acquiring an old dairy.
So who's doing the auction? The county? Or
No,
private?
we are.
We are
We
doing the
are
auction.
doing the auction.
Are we setting a minimum? Do we set a minimum?
Well, our bid will essentially be everything that we're owed.
We're owed.
So, okay,
We're entitled to bid in that amount.
okay,
And then someone else has got to bid $1 over.
to get it,
Together.
because we don't really want it.
We don't really want
No,
it,
we
but
don't. We just want to get, we just want to get back what we
But
put, what
often-
we're owed.
in my experience, serious buyers who are interested in buying a used dairy facility don't buy it on the courthouse steps, because you have no due diligence. You have no guarantees. You really, it's a pig in a poke. And most often what happens, the bank, which we are in this case, bids it in for what they owed. They end up owning it, and then they turn around and sell it in the market. And people who are seriously interested in buying it go through the ordinary process of inspecting the property and doing whatever due diligence
Yeah.
they would like to do. It can happen where someone shows up, says, I got 300 in cash, but we probably would have heard from that person.
No.
So what's the total amount owed with taxes and loans?
Well, I would say it's probably around 300.
300,000.
With the real estate taxes.
Hey, Joe, does that include equipment and the contents and everything when you
Everything.
foreclose?
Everything.
It's all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's pretty close to being a turnkey operation as far as the investment that Mountain Fresh made.
Because that stuff was
A
pretty
new
new.
equipment. It was brand new and it had gone through the process with the state certification, all the necessary.
So we could technically make money on this. I mean, we go, because I mean, the dairy, I mean, we get it, let's say we get it for 300,000, we sell it, we could sell it for,
2 million.
yeah, so we could
Or you
conceivably.
could own it for.
The reason I was asking-
I think we ought to appoint that money
It's
quick.
an optimist, somebody's gonna.
Yeah.
I think the governance.
Yeah.
No, really,
Project. What do
A
you
little
think?
project.
Mayor, you got a good point.
I'm hoping. Hey, Joe, you have contacts with all these dairies and
Well,
stuff.
I was just gonna say, the reason I asked the question, Mayor, because you're spot on, because the stainless steel in there is probably worth a lot more today than 3-4 years ago. You see what I'm saying? That's why I asked, but Joe, what happens if there's some contents and there's a lien on them? How does that get cleaned up? You have to pay the lien off?
It depends on the type of equipment, whether it's equipment that's attached to the building,
Right.
which I
Okay.
assume most of this is. But if
Yeah.
you have a spare table, a pump or something like that, in theory, that might be outside of our lien. But the stuff that is actually affixed goes with the building.
Well, yeah, to Joe's question, though, let's say hypothetically, there's a freestanding piece of equipment, there's a lien on, can we just say you take it?
Oh,
We're not gonna
sure.
pay, it's yours. We're not gonna pay you for it.
Right, but any.
Anything attached to the
any
building.
Right.
UCC filings, et cetera, would be subordinate to our.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because those
Yeah.
stainless steel tanks will have real value. That's what my thinking was. That's all.
Yeah, and they're fairly new, and I don't,
Yeah.
they were hardly used. I think he
They
did
were
process a
brand
little bit of milk in there, I
Right.
think.
Not much, yeah.
Initially, he did,
Yeah, not very
not a
much,
lot.
yeah,
There's long lead times right now on all that equipment.
yeah.
yeah.
So we are, I mean, in the process,
Yeah,
we have,
good
there have been a few companies in that space that we've, reached out to make them aware of the public notice on the auction. One is, they do an aseptic milk, they do nut milk, product out of the Buffalo area. And when I was at the IAMC conference, which I'll talk about in just a moment, there's another bottling beverage company that I had the opportunity to meet. So we are trying to get word out that this facility might be available for an appropriate user, but that's coming up. So I wanted to make sure the board knew about that. And I'll end my part with, I was able for the first time to attend the IAMC Industrial Asset Management Council's spring forum down in Florida at the end of April, early part of May. It's the first time I think Binghamton has had a presence in a number of years. I was part of Team New York, which included our state association, New York State Economic Development Council, representatives from Fulton County IDA, Greater Rochester Enterprise, National Grid was there, as well as a few others from representing New York. So it was a tremendous event. It is a hard group to get into. We're on a waiting list for membership because what they try to do is a third, and a third. So they'll have a third of their membership be economic development organizations, a third be service organizations, engineering, site selection, client reps, and a third corporate members. And we were able to get in front of a lot of logistics and distribution companies, talk about the Binghamton area. It's fascinating what's happening in industrial real estate right now. I mean, the vacancy rate is so low. So it will help inform our direction with a lot of site inventory and land development initiatives in the year ahead, especially with the state's $200 million shovel ready fund that we're watching and waiting for the application process to open. But as well, even things, at a company who is working with shipping containers. They're being docked with nowhere to go. So this company does an inventory management and tries to move product just for a temporary period of time. So it's a fascinating sector right now, but it was a very worthwhile, and we're reaching out to, we have a list of contacts and we're reaching out to them to talk about Broome. So with that, I did want to just have Brendan and Amy give two quick updates. We're going to start with Brendan to do the CDBG grant program that we're involved with. Brendan.
Thank you, everybody. So to give a little background, we partnered with Broome County back in last summer to apply for a CDBG coronavirus relief grant for small businesses. This would be, it's a $1 million grant with $50,000 coming to us for administration, and the rest, $950,000 being dispersed to businesses who are applicable for the grant. So it could be a minimum of up to 19 grants awarded. These businesses have to qualify based on showing a loss over the pandemic time period. Very minimal loss, it's a 1% loss, so it's very minimal. They have to have 25 or less employees, and they have to have a certain number of those employees be at or below the median income for the county. So since then, we've received 44 inquiries and received total applications of about 28 since then, and have 23 completed applications. And the reason why there's a big discrepancy between inquiries and how many we received is because there's a lot of paperwork involved in order to process. And a lot of the businesses, once they see how much they have to provide and how much they have to do, they've dropped off since then. Now comes to the next difficult process, is that we've only submitted one application as of today, and this is in the process of Our general thinking of it is that we want to get one application fully completed, fully ready and perfect in the eyes of the state, while we sit on these other ones and get them up to speed at the same time. So that when they say go with that application and then we're good to go with that one, we can then submit the rest of them and be thinking that there should be a simplified process going forward from there. We've had some issues with getting that one application up to what the New York State wants. We fulfilled everything they wanted as of back of, I don't know, March, February time. But they've kind of changed their minds 3 or 4 times in how they want it. And we're talking just logistically speaking of what document they want where. They currently have everything they need for that to approve the one application. But they want it in 5 PDFs instead of 2. And it just has to be parsed out and just collated in the way that they want. So we're waiting on, we just completed the last round of edits and submitted that. So we're hoping we hear back this week on that. It looks good and it'll be formally submitted. So then we can do the backlog of 15 plus that we want to get approved. We currently have more completed applications than what we have funding available for. And that's in thinking that probably a couple of those won't get approved. So that we do have ones ready and waiting to go in the case that we don't get everybody approved. So we're hoping that we can get those started to process over the next couple of weeks and get them through and then checks back in the hands of businesses.
Yeah, and I'd like to, Brendan and Natalie and our intern Nick Gregoris, who couldn't be at this meeting, have done a tremendous amount of work and a great job in preparing them. And it seems to be, I don't know if the word is stylistic or presentation, but we just, the content is there. It's just the way the way they want it, it keeps changing. So we're working with them and we think we're hopefully getting there to get these grants out the
What
door.
was the dollar amount again that's available for us?
For 50,000.
50,000. Wow. And then, so the business fills out an application, and then what do you guys do? Kind of help just massage it, for lack of a better word, and get it ready?
Yes.
That's our role, kind of
Yeah.
making it fit the guidelines that you outlined for
Yeah.
the state.
Yep, and there's a lot of documents that are quite confusing that the state requires. And we have that expertise and knowledge on how to fill it out, so we help them through the process and make sure that, sometimes they submit payroll documentation that isn't maybe just a QuickBooks documentation, rather than them wanting to see the actual company provided payroll documents, and just making sure that we're matching.
Kind of like a concierge service, if you
Yeah.
will, for lack of it, but we're making,
Sounds tedious.
so we're getting there. We're getting there. The good news is, once we get this process and protocol down that how they want it presented, we've got the applications completed and ready to go.
So
So,
who do you deal with at the state? Is it HCR?
It's OCR.
OCR?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different than HCR, but I think that's the main sticking point, is that they're used to one type of applications and this is completely different than what they're used to. And they're trying to put this bucket into the same hole as, trying to put that square peg in a circle hole. And it's hard to fit.
just taking a while.
And is the county involved in any way in terms of review?
Yes, so throughout this whole process, I have Dropbox where we submit documents back and forth and they review it, they look at it. And how the process will be working is that as soon as the state gives an okay, we'll invoice the county will issue a check to us, and then we will be paying out for the businesses.
Got it. The only thing that excludes is sole proprietorships, right?
No, we have been able to make those fit too.
Really?
And the reason why is if the sole proprietor is on the New York State 45, showing them as that being kind of like a paid employee. And there's still that one employee is under that median income limit, we can make it fit. And we have like 2 or 3 sole proprietors on the list that have applied.
Mhm.
Very
Well,
good.
nonprofits are excluded.
Yep.
We cannot do
Yeah,
nonprofits.
that was pretty much the only
Yeah, that
exclusion.
was, yeah. And then what we do try to do is give you a quarterly update on a number of our marketing and business development initiatives. So I'm going to have Amy give just a quick overview. You have a report in your folder. So Amy, go ahead.
Sure thing. So I'm not going to go through all of the data with you. I'm sure that everybody here finds it just as riveting as I do, but we'll just keep it nice and brief. So, you know, this quarter, we only advertised for February and March instead of January, February, March. That was just because, and we'll get into this in a little bit, some of our creative for our advertising just wasn't performing well. You know, that's pretty typical within the space. We run creative on average from anywhere from about like 3 to 9 months. And you know, it's kind of very fickle, the market depends on what people like to see, what people don't like to see. 1 month, one ad can do great for a full 9 months, one ad can fail after 2. So we worked all of January with our advertising placement team Rieger, as well as our creative team Hugh, to come up with a series of some new ads. And they are performing well above industry standards, probably some of the best data that we've seen in a while. So, you know, we've got our typical targeted display creatives. Both of those are performing, you know, double the industry standard. Something you'll also notice on this report is there is no formal Broome is Good advertising. At this current time, we just decided to put a pause on those advertising dollars as Broome is Good is going to play a larger role in the Leadership Alliance marketing efforts that'll come out at the end of this year. We're currently working with ABC Creative, who's based out of Syracuse, but they also have an office actually right down the hall. And they've been helping us come up with some new concepts and how to kind of more seamlessly market the 3 organizations in our programming. So if you go to the LinkedIn data, that's, you know, the best example that I have of immediate growth, you know, switching out that creative that we talked about. So in September 2021, by that point, we were running a site selection ad. You know, it was kind of similar to the targeted display that's also in your packet, the one that has the map, had a lot of words, it was very wordy. You know, we worked with Rieger and they said, you know, it's been up for a few months now, and when you're advertising, especially as we do, we target by profession and industry, you know, eventually you're going to be getting the same pool of people after a while, not right away, but eventually. And if it's not as engaging an ad, people are just gonna say, oh, I've seen this before, and they're gonna scroll right by. So they'll still be counted in those impressions and those reach. So they'll still be counted as people that we did reach. But since we did, they didn't interact with the ad or click through or come to our website or see our services. That's why that click-through rate was, I mean, just truly abysmal in September. It was 0.01. The average click-through rate for LinkedIn campaigns is 0.39%. And as you can see, just in the 2 months, and it really only ran for half of February, we have click-through rates of 0.47 and 0.56 already, both above the industry standard, and our highest record with our LinkedIn advertising to
And
date.
and you can kind of see, I mean, we're trying to, you know, the nice thing about doing this is we can check in quickly and see how performance is and make adjustments, and you can see the difference between the top and the bottom. I think of page 2 in your packet of, you know, just changing up the look of something can really dramatically, you know, things can get, I think subconsciously you see it all the time, so you don't think to click. So even just changing a little bit of a feature. Sorry.
Yeah, and everyone really loves the as easy as pie. It's a more fun ad. You know, we typically have a lot of black and white and yellow marketing. And
I loved it. It jumped out at me.
So it's definitely a little bit different than we usually do. So then the next page really just has, you know, the in-depth numbers for each of our campaigns. Like I said, our targeted displays are performing, I think actually everything is performing above average. Yeah, and our SEM as well truly has jumped. So previously we were looking at an SEM rate of about 3% click-through. Now we're at 13 and 12%, which is incredible because industry standard is 1.91. So we're definitely getting a lot of advertising and website traffic through our search ads. Finally, it's just our Google Analytics. I didn't include comparison data for Broome is Good since we didn't run formal marketing. It would be kind of a joke to look at. You know, since we're not having that formal marketing pushing folks to our website, we're not having as many visitors, but we're still averaging about 2,000 a quarter, which is pretty good. And our social pages, which is where we do most of our organic outreach for Broome is Good, those are still increasing. All of our follower accounts have increased each quarter. So that's really that. And then my favorite thing to do as always Coffeyville is still one of our number one.
Where is that?
That was, I think, in Kansas. So that's still our number one, and Ashburn has now made the list, actually as a number two.
Where's that?
I think it's somewhere anymore.
Ashburn, we'll look it up.
What's the name of it?
Ashburn.
Ashburn,
Ashburn.
yeah.
So,
I know Georgia, it was the Georgia.
Nothing.
Yeah, so
And so,
that seems to like us.
it will be, I know, right? So, and we'll be focusing a lot of these ads, as
Mhm.
mentioned, moving forward. We're focusing a lot on site selection right now and
Oh.
promoting our real estate assets in the region, just because we know of the demand,
Mhm.
especially in industrial and manufacturing.
Absolutely. And one other thing that I've included in this report that I haven't done in previous reports, we are involved in a lot more collaborative grant efforts, actually typically as the lead marketing or communications partner. So the way that works is we'll put the dollars up front and then they're reimbursed to us. So I've included some of the collaborative marketing results as well that we've done, and all of them have performed exceptionally well, only with a couple $100 behind each post.
Now, are these ads, do we track, do they generate, are we getting like inquiries, calls here based on the advertising? Do we?
The conversion, and the
Yeah.
conversion can
We
be
track that.
trickier to manage.
So
Yeah. I think we-
conversion is a
yeah.
little harder to manage, especially with the services that we provide. So we're able to track for our website data, for example, how folks get to our website. But for example, with calls, I mean, it would just be somebody would have to say
Yeah,
that
we
they
can
called.
ask and we
Yeah,
ask,
but
yeah.
our
Okay.
website data, and I can put out if you're ever interested in more in-depth and very analytical report, that kind of goes into, it breaks out the mediums and channels by which someone came. So it'll say, oh, this targeted display ad was put on Facebook. So it'll show that it clicked through from this ad and it came from Facebook, or it'll show you how this is a search engine marketing person. Like you can find how these people found your website, and you can also, it's very creepy, go in and you can follow and see what exactly they did on the site. So you can
How
follow
much
their
time they
activity.
spend,
Mhm, how much time they
everything.
spent,
That's-
exactly
yeah.
what they clicked on the website. Even if it's not a link, there's a click map. So if you just click on like a random, just blank spot, I can see that you clicked there. So it gets really in depth. So that's kind of the best that we can track. But conversion metrics especially get a little bit trickier since we're not necessarily selling things.
Yeah.
Google doesn't have, unfortunately, a function yet to have like non-traditional conversion metrics like we do, like making an appointment with us or downloading one of our brochures. We are able to pull that information on our own, but Google doesn't generate it like a conversion factor like they would if we were a e-commerce store.
Well, I think the first, obviously, the biggest hurdle is getting people to look.
Mhm.
So that's the important thing, is, you know, and that's increasing, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and we're reaching, I think, easily across all of our ads, at least 150,000 folks a month. So it's pretty impressive.
All right, thank you, Amy.
Keep it up.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, that's I think that's all I have.
I trust everyone's had a chance to review the internal financial reports for March and April. Thank you, Teresa. Any questions for Teresa on those reports? In addition, I take it everybody's looked at the loan activity report. Any questions for Natalie on that? Natalie also issued the annual report on bonds and pilots and all that. Questions for Natalie on that? There were two entities that had some trouble attributed to COVID. And I think your recommendation is to leave them alone for another year, at least until the end of this year, right?
Well, it would be, so they have 3 years to create the jobs.
Got
So
it.
after the 3 years, we stop, I mean, we still track it, but it doesn't count anymore towards. So if they lose some or gain some, it doesn't count towards that loan. So because this is the end of their 3rd year, the board can take, those 2 specific actions if they want to.
Given the pandemic and the troubles they faced, is there any input here from the board?
So if we gave them, for lack of anything else, a pass here, is it to come back and revisit it next year? It's just a complete waiver.
So that begs, is a good question. So that begs another question, and that is, should we modify that or should we say, okay, we'll give you the pass for the year, but a
Yeah.
year from now, we anticipate you'll be in compliance. We can do that,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
I'd be more in favor of the 1-year pass.
But the latter, it seems
Given the
like
challenges.
Yeah, it's big based on the pandemic, but I wouldn't forget it totally because then you were setting a precedent that,
that's the precedent you don't want to
yeah,
set.
could take us, God only knows where,
Mhm.
Cheryl or Joe,
Real estate market.
any input on this?
I would agree with the mayor. I would say just, I don't want to set a bad precedent.
We will, yeah, we can reach out to them and let them know that, given, that we will revisit kind of a gap year we had with COVID and we'll revisit next year.
I think it's fair that we're giving them
Yeah,
another year.
and this would still be captured for this year's Paris, for next year's Paris, correct? This year's performance, so we'll
12/31.
we'll let them know. We'll make sure they know now that we'll be revisiting with them.
Doesn't a formal action have to be taken, Joe, or no? Just as a
No.
procedural thing.
It's procedural. Mhm.
Thank you. Good input. Natalie. Sorry, I lost my page here. So there are no questions or comments on the loan activity reports as presented. Moving on to new business resolution authorizing exemption of the June 10th, 2021 sales and use tax exemption agreement granted to Cashew Enterprises, Inc. through and including May 19th, 2023, and authorizing the increase thereof in the amount of $91,440 for a total sales and use tax exemption not to exceed $331,440. Stacy.
Yes, so as mentioned in my earlier remarks, we were able to close our pilot agreement and project agreement with Cashew Enterprises this previous month, and we're thrilled to see Bob Cashew, who is here today, be able to move forward with the building project at the Greater Binghamton Sports Complex on Airport Road. We all are aware of that unfortunate setback in the project, so not surprisingly, it has delayed time and caused some cost increases. So Cashew Enterprises is here today to request an additional year on the time of that benefit. So from today to May 19th of 2023. And then also the addition of about $91,000 in new sales tax benefit. You do have an application that outlines the cost increase there. It is under the required amount for a public hearing. So today's action would just approve the full benefits as requested.
Okay, questions for Mr. Cashew, who's with us today? Hi, Bob. Hi. Okay, Mayor, this went through governance.
It did, so we move it forward as a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Thank you, Dan. Any discussion? Let's have a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carried, thank you. Item number 7, thanks, Bob. Number 7, resolution authorizing the agency to enter into 3-year term contracts for architectural, engineering, civil, and environmental services. Stacy?
Yeah, so this was a process we started several years ago. And what it does, really, the benefit to us is it enables us to do a blanket RFP for potential contractual relationships with things like architecture and engineering, civil engineering, site planning, feasibility studies, et cetera. So we do this every 3 years. We issued an RFP earlier this year for these services. We did receive 12 proposals back, and we are recommending, this is higher than we've done previously, but I think for good cause, we've recommended 6 vendors. 2 of those I would characterize as in the area of planning and feasibility studies. That's Elan Planning out of the Saratoga area, which we do have an existing relationship with on our site inventory analysis and which we're beginning our phase 2 site inventory analysis. The second one is Labella and Associates. They are a new recommendation. They do similar planning and consulting and economic development studies for us. They have a new location in Broome County now, relatively new. So they are, looking to get more involved in the market. They're a great firm. We've known them for a long time. And then we have 4 that we would characterize as architecture and engineering, more classical. Shoemaker Engineering in Binghamton, Janice and Anderson, which is more strictly architecture side of things, Delta Engineers and Keystone and Associates. Again, the benefit of pre-approving, if you will, these relationships is we would enter into 3-year term contracts. When we do find a project or a specific objective we're trying to accomplish, we can just go to them for quotes rather than another full RFP process. Rich had asked for some information on our previous term. So from 2019, we had relationships with Delta Engineering, Shoemaker Engineering, and CNS Engineering. We had utilized Delta for the total of about $2,400 for some structural assessment with the IBM Country Club. We are still working with them as that project continues. And then all the other relationships we've had have gone through other grants that we've received. So the 600 Main Street feasibility grant, we issued an RFP on the site inventory analysis. So those have been outside of this relationship, but again, this process just, I think, helps us move a little more nimbly moving forward. So we are recommending today Elon Shoemaker, who are both WBE Enterprises here in New York State, LaBelle and Associates, Janice and Anderson Architects, Delta Engineers and Land Surveyors, and Keystone and Associates.
I got a conflict. Do you want me to leave or sit here quietly?
I think he doesn't need to leave. He can just recuse, right? Yeah. So
Okay,
noted.
thank you. Mayor, let's go through governance.
It did, but we didn't have a quorum to move it forward, so we just figured we would bring it to the full board for consideration.
Okay, looking for a motion on this item. Dan, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Cheryl, thank you. Discussion, questions for Stacy relative to this topic? It's to have the ability to engage any one of these firms and seek, obviously, quotes at the
Sure,
time.
yeah, and
so
that's
that we know
typically
what
at
we're getting
$5,000 or above, so it's, yeah, it's a practice we do, right?
Yeah, I think it's just important, I guess, to note again, which Stacy stressed, is if it's above 5,000, she puts out an RFP.
Well, yeah, a
So I
quote,
think
yeah,
that's-
request for quotes.
Or what's
yeah.
close, I'm sorry, yeah,
Mhm.
which I think is important for everybody. to understand.
Absolutely.
What you're saying is they're qualified, in your opinion, and you
Yes,
would like
we're
to do business
pre-vetted,
with them. It just comes
yes.
down to the economics of it.
Yep.
Okay, with that said, let's have a vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? And one abstention, Jim. Thank you. Item number 8, resolution to approve a proposal from Century Alarms providing for installation of 4 exterior cameras, 2 interior cameras, 2 glass break detectors to the existing security system. Stacy?
Yes, this actually it came as a result of an incident we had here at the building, which I informed the board about a few months back. We did have an attempted break-in, or I assume it was an attempted break-in, or the glass at the Visions Federal Credit Union, part of our building, was shattered. We did provide video camera to Century Alarms, and relevant law enforcement was involved. Thankfully, I think because it was the double paned, they were not able to penetrate the entire building and get in, but certainly was a moment for us to revisit what does our security systems look like. We discovered what we felt was somewhat of a deficiency in the appropriate amount of cameras and security equipment for the size of our building and given the multi-tenant nature of the building. Part of that was because we had, I think when we built the building, we had an understanding with SUNY Broome Community College that we were sort of covered under their security force, if you will, but we are not. I had asked Natalie to sit down with the security at the college. We learned we were not then covered in that way that we initially thought. And so what you have here, we did seek some additional information from Century, and we're recommending just some additional security for the building. There's oftentimes, that there's only a few people in the building. We just want to maintain security for all of our tenants and employees. So you see that the quote here is provided. The cost does include the cost for prevailing wage, which we are required to pay.
Is there a motion on this item?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Let's have a vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion carried. Item number 9, discussion regarding an amendment to the open meetings law. Okay, so we all read the stuff that Natalie sent us relative to participating in person versus from afar. And so I'm gonna just skip you and just turn it over. What did the governance committee vote? Regardless of whether you had a quorum or not? What did you think?
Well, what we did, what we essentially recommended was that the key word in here was extraordinary circumstances, that you could have this bifurcated meeting.
Yeah.
And so we just asked Stacy and the staff to make suggestions what might be considered extraordinary and bring it back to us for a vote.
Like I have COVID.
Yeah.
That's an example.
Right, so we said like somebody being sick, yeah. So we said, rather than trying to brainstorm all the possibilities, we thought we let them throw it back to
Yeah.
them and they can make a recommendation what's extraordinary.
Makes
and then-
perfect sense.
So we will have that prior to June meeting, because right now everything is being extended for open meetings law month to month. There's still an extension of this emergency order, but we know that's going potentially expiring, so we'll plan for this for
So is
June.
June still under the current order?
We
Or-
will know when
We don't
does
know.
usually.
Oh, so right now it
June
ends-
is Usually.
I
That's
think it's
right
the
now.
middle of June. I think it's the middle of June it ends. It would
June. So
be
we're either like covered by a day or not
Uh,
covered by a day. It's always right in the middle of the
Is
month.
vacation one of those extraordinary?
Well,
it's everybody asks that
Everybody asks that
question. I know.
Apart from a child.
So,
Family issues. we said.
and if I
Being
may,
sick is.
Sick, family issues.
With no note.
yeah,
So the ball is back in
back
your
to us,
court.
Yes.
we'll provide a recommendation for June.
Well done,
I just wanted
governance.
to make
Way to go.
You're not a punt.
Right, so, I do not have any items for executive session, but if I may, it's not necessarily old business, but while he's on our virtual call, I want to just kind of give a shout out to Joe Marabito and thank him. I am a member of the CLE, Conrad and Virginia CLE Foundation Board, and I just want to thank Joe for his support, given the significant increase in the cost of fuel for organizations. We know we have a lot of nonprofits in our community that rely a lot on reaching clients where they are. So it requires a lot of cost with transportation. So the CLE Foundation decided to venture into micro grants for those nonprofits who are struggling to maintain their service with increasing costs. And not surprisingly, we approached Marabito and they not only supported, but enhanced the total dollar amount for these grants for nonprofits. So thank you, Joe and Marabito, for
Thanks,
supporting,
Joe.
being a tremendous community partner. So it's tough if you rely a lot on
No kidding.
your cars to get to your clients. So we appreciate that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Joe. As always, any old business? Looking for a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Joe. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you all very much.
Bye.